All right, so UAW workers are on strike at the GM plants. Now, as a card carrying member of USW, all right, which is the United Steelworkers, I stand with my union brethren. It is what it is, all right? But, and this is a big but, man, listen. I know they say GM's been profitable, but it hasn't been profitable because it's been selling a lot of cars. It's profitable because it's been selling fucking assets. That's a huge difference, you know, a big different thing. So we're going to go over this article about the strike, and then we're going to go over GM's actual numbers and see what's going on. And as far as production is concerned and understanding where the auto market is in general, you know, we're going to kind of just go over this and give you a bunch of information so that you can kind of make your own opinion. All right, that's kind of the deal. But I want you to understand that we should all be standing with, the workers of America, because as workers do well, the economy does well, and our nation does well, as families do well. That's kind of the situation. We want Detroit to be all right. Anybody out here who is shitting on Detroit just because, fucking like, oh man, fuck them. No. All right? No. Like, man, listen. Any towns and cities in Ohio and Michigan and PA and fucking all the places that have been affected by this, real shit, dude. Like, I've lived in these towns. I live in these towns. I was raised in these towns. I was raised in these fucking cities, man. Legit, like, yo, it's not positive for any of us. It's not positive for us as a nation to watch our whole nation fall down and crumble. And it has nothing to do with race or fucking religion or creed or anything. It has to do with our economy taking a shit. And it's bigger than the people. It's much bigger than the people. And the people are more important than stupid fucking ideologies. So let's get into this. All right. The real reason General Motors workers are on strike nationwide. It's not that complicated. GM has been highly profitable, and workers haven't forgotten the sacrifices they made to prop up the company. Come on, let's go down. That's a weird looking bitch, I'll be real. When did a bro from Reno 911 fucking get a job at fucking Detroit? She is not doing well. Jesse Kelly knew there was an excellent chance she would end up on a strike at General Motors. Long before her union, United Auto Workers declared a work stoppage this weekend, the 29-year-old mother of one began socking away savings to prepare for a long battle with the Detroit automaker. Well, good for you, right? I could live out 3 months. Kelly, an apprentice mold maker at the GM Technical Center in Warren, Michigan, told Huffington Post, I feel 100% this strike is necessary. Spoiled, man. You fucking spoiled. I'll be real with you. No one knows how long the largest auto strike in more than a decade will last, but workers like Kelly have dug in and don't plan to bend. They look at how well GM has done over the recent years. The company pulled in roughly $11 billion in pre-tax profits, and that's pre-tax, right? In 2018, about $35 billion over the last 3 years combined. And to wonder why they shouldn't have a larger piece of the pie. Now, I would... See, this is the problem, all right? Because you're talking about future profitability, and it's not looking positive for any of these fucking companies right now. It's really not looking positive because people aren't buying fucking cars. And let me put this all the way 100. There's, a lot of stuff about this where you have these companies were selling a large amount of their money in fleet vehicles, like, to the government or the rental car companies, things of this nature. And in particular with the rental car companies, like, they're not buying cars anymore because they're getting eaten up by Uber and Lyft. It's kind of the deal. They shuffle us into a room every 6 months and praise these record-breaking profits, but they expect us to give back, Kelly said. We just not understand right now why the company is still acting like we're in bankruptcy when in the last 4 years they've been extremely profitable. Dude, yo, look here, man. Have you looked around at how shitty the country's doing right now? Like, have you checked it out? Like, because... most of y'all are not doing well. Most of our country is not doing very well at the moment. Like, people are hungry, all right? It is what it is. So, her outlook goes a long way on explaining why 50,000 UAW workers have stopped production at more than 50 GM facilities nationwide. The union said Sunday that the two sides remain far apart in negotiations with a raft of outstanding issues to resolve. But the root of the deadlock is not hard to grasp. GM very much wants to keep the cost down as auto sales slows, and the company makes bets on electric vehicles. But GM workers told Huffington Post they still recall the sacrifices the union made as the industry floundered in 2007. That shouldn't be foundered. Foundered? Yeah. Before the company returned to its profitability. The concessions they made back then, including two-tier wage system, still cast a shadow over the current talks. Though workers have shared in GM's strong performance since then, profit-sharing bonuses can top $10,000. They can see no bend to the company, given its recent track record. Right. All right. To be clear, few people away from the bargaining table noted the biggest hurdles to a deal in union leadership has not shared the company's proposal with members. GM disclosed a few pieces of its offer, including promises to allocate production to two facilities that had been idled, an overall investment of $7 billion in UAW replace plants, and worker bonuses of $8,000 for ratifying the contract. So that's a signing bonus, and of $8,000 for every worker, which I don't know if I really agree with that. I don't think you should be buying votes, but if it gets you back to work, it is what it is. But pay hikes and other benefits were not specified. The union and GM could easily be at a deadlock over wage increases, healthcare costs, and even trickier issues that were expected to be central to the talks. As far as healthcare is concerned, a lot of people, people hate union workers, right? Because they're like, man, spoiled brats. But let's be real here. You don't want to work in a factory, all right? Y'all went to college so you can go work in an office and live in air conditioning and shit and luxury. It's not. I've worked in factories most of my life, and I'll be honest with you. They're dirty, nasty, awful places where people get hurt. You have to worry about death on a regular basis. It's not a fun place to be. It's really not. And you end up with a lot of problems. Now, at a GM plant, it's much different than it is at, say your local, place that makes, widgets or whatever the case might be, right? I worked at places that made truck springs and, pipes and rail lines and things of this nature. Companies that you probably have never heard of. So, they're not going to be as focused about having the safety issues and OSHA regulations met on a regular basis. So, there's a lot of guys who got sick and got hurt and got injured all the time. It was just a constant thing. And you put in massive amounts of hours. I used to work 5 12s, a 10, and an 8 every week, right? So you're working 78 hours a week and then turning around and working night shift the next week. And it was hell a lot of times, but you were making money and you were providing for your family. And that's really what was important to you, and it's one of those things where you grind your ass off to make this money, but you feel like you're not getting rewarded for it. It's a messed up thing, right? And we're going to talk about numbers here in a second, as far as pay is concerned, and you're going to go $30 an hour. Man, shut up. All right, $30 an hour is not that much money, especially once a tax man cometh. And imagine being a dude paying child support and a tax man cometh, and you don't even got nobody to claim. It's a whole different ball game. It takes you from $30 an hour to 10. It's awful. All right. Workers said they believe that GM and the union need to bridge class division within plants. It takes newer workers 8 years to reach a top pay rate of roughly $30 per hour earned by long-term veterans. That's better than in the wake of the financial crisis, when new hires had no way of reaching that rate at all. A compromise the union made as the company veered towards bankruptcy. I've been in plants legitimately where it was $15-16 an hour was the top rate. And that was hell, and it was awful. I'll be honest with you. You know what I mean? It was miserable. It was probably one of the worst things. But yeah, I used, the top rate I think in my last plant was 32. I believe before I stopped working in factories, I think the top rate was $32 an hour or 34. And I was making, I was 2 steps below that at 24 an hour, right? And man, listen, it's not easy work. It's not easy work. But many workers believe the in-progression system, as it's known, is too long a slog. After all, it takes the duration of 2 collective bargaining agreements to complete it. So that's probably 8 years, right? They also want to limit GM's use of temporary workers. The company says about 7% of its U.S. workforce is temps. though the share can vary significantly from department to department and shift to shift. Some workers temp for 2 years or more before transitioning to full-time and gaining job security. GM may be pointing to a foreign-owned transplants like Nissan, where temporary workers are more widespread and asking for similar leeway. Yo, I hate temps. I hated being a temp, and I hate the use of temps. I'll be honest with you. Like, I understand their need in the market, and I get why the market created them. But the way that companies use them today, and especially for the tax breaks that they get for using them, right? Like, they can write them off like office equipment. You know what I mean? They're considered like an outside contractor. And so they get to be a write-off on the taxes instead of being an employee. And it's literally miserable. You know what I mean? Like, there's no liability for you. You know what I mean? It's kind of the situation. Like, there's none of this, like, you're able to just, you know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, file a grievance. You can't stand here and have any protections from your employer. You know what I mean? Like you would normally. Like, imagine going to your office tomorrow and they can go, you know, we don't need you anymore, right? And, like, your temp agency goes, oh, yeah, you know, they called us and said, you know what I mean, that, you know, it wasn't working out, right? And, like, there was no way of going through any, you know, like, there's no system of, you know, like, you know, you mess up this many times or anything like that. They can just, whatever, peace. You know what I mean? You're out of a job, and, like, your temp agency can offer you another bullshit job for, like, half the pay that you were making, or, like, you know, like $1 or $2 an hour less than you were making, and it's, like, 45 minutes to an hour further away from where you were. And they stand here and they tell you either you take it or you don't get unemployment, and you have nothing behind you. It's awful. Legitimately, it's awful. It's the most ridiculous shit. And you can't get past that. You know what I mean? Like, yo, this is why I hate temporary work. It's literally like legal pimping. You know what I mean? It really is. It's like pimping in the workforce. It's awful. And it just, if you're dumb, there's no way for you to be able to survive. And dumb people are needed because we have to have bodies to be able to throw at enemies sometimes. We have to have a population. And there has to be ways for, like, individuals who are average or below average of intelligence and abilities to be able to earn a living. You know, and I know, like, all of y'all, you know, like, a lot of y'all are, you know, on some nonsense, and you think, you know, like, oh, you know, I'm smart, you know, I'll be able to make it. Like, let's be honest here, okay? Yo, look, they're getting rid of Wall Street bankers, all right? They're getting rid of tech guys. You know what I mean? They're sending coding over to India. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so don't get anything misunderstood and think you can't be replaced too. And you're going to be in the same position. And they're going to go, oh, who's going to help me? And everybody's going to look at you and go, oh, well, you said fuck us at that point. We all kind of got to stand together a little bit for this. You know, it is what it is. They also want, yeah, all right. Hang on, wait, we're going down. Okay. Some workers temp for 2 years or more before transitioning to full-time, gaining job security. Oh, wait, yeah. In a letter to members Sunday, UAW President Terry Ditz said the outstanding issues include in-progressing wage system as well as the treatment of temporary workers. Right? Beth Barrio, a parts handler at GM's processing center in Burton, Michigan, said that guaranteeing more temps to convert to traditional status was a priority for her and her co-workers. Barrio started with a GM in 2014. She temped for 18 months, becoming a full-time employee. She hasn't yet reached top pay rate. Yeah. You know, like, man, look, and you're a parts handler, all right? You're not, like, man, look, this is the problem. Like, yo, you can't make all jobs equal pay, all right? It's not just like, oh, man, you know, you've been here this long, you get this much money. That shouldn't be how it operates. Like, you know, if you have a more technical job, or, you know, I mean, you have more ability, there should be ways for you to earn more money than somebody else. Like, that's kind of the deal. And it's, that should not be the system. Is just, oh, you were just here that long, so you get that much money. That's dumb. She was out in the picket line at their plant at midnight Monday morning and found it was difficult to convince some temps to join the strike because they felt vulnerable. She estimated that nearly half the department of her evening shift is temporary, in part because of the shift is less desirable. Man, listen, you know, I love the night shift. The night shift is the bomb. Like, you get much less fucking oversight, no more people bothering you and shit. They have temps who come in and are next to people making twice what they make. A lot of them were scared to even walk out. We had to explain that if you walk out with us, the union is going to fight for you. She added, "I would be scared too." Kane's Detroit business reported Monday that GM wants workers to bear a significantly larger share of healthcare burden. The workers generally have excellent health coverage and are responsible for around 3 to 4% of the cost. In the factory, they should be covering all of it. You know what I mean? And I remember, ours was, I think, $10 a week for our families. And it was good, because, you call cancer in that bitch. So, at least they can do is give you decent health insurance. Right? According to Crane, GM initial offers would have hiked that share to 15%, a proposal the union rejected. They're trying to start eroding a lot of the progress our forefathers made through the union, said Barrow. Whatever the contract the union reaches with GM would serve as a template for its talks with Ford and Fiat Chrysler. The remaining 2/3 of the big three, but even if UAW leadership can squeeze a deal out of GM that they like, it doesn't mean they will go over workers like Barrio. When the union was negotiating its last contracts with the big three 4 years ago, workers at Fiat Chrysler voted down the initial tentative agreement the union had secured. Their rejection eventually led to a better deal, allowing for in-progression workers to reach top pay. And if rank-and-file GM workers don't like the offer put before them, they can take a page from the 2015 playbook and vote it down, sending everyone back to the table. At last, the last strike at GM lasted 2 days in 2007 and inflicted minimal pain on the company and workers. A strike that last week should be far more damaging. Analysts say the plant closures could cost GM $50 million a day in revenue. It wouldn't be long before the strike would be visible on dealer lots. And even though the strike is taking place only in the U.S., it would also hurt production in Mexico and Canada due to the company's integrated production across North America. As for workers, UAW has grown a healthy strike fund of more than $700 million, thanks in part to the temporary dues increase to prepare for this year's contract fight. But workers will still only collect $250 a week in strike pay, hardly enough to carry a single worker, let alone a family. Kelly brought her 6-year-old son out in the picket line Sunday. Deal, fluff deal. "We as membership have prepared to say that this could be a long strike," she said. "We stood by GM in bankruptcy. We considered concessions. We took concessions, and we understood why it was needed at that time. This was 2007. That would be understandable, but not now, when it just looks like corporate greed." Well, that's what it looks like, but let me get into some actual numbers. All right, so I'm going to stand here and show you the GM's motor annual revenue from 2016 was $149 billion, right? It was a 9.92 increase from 2015. And then went down to 145. 2018 was 147, right? It's at 145 for the 12 months since June. And currently, for the quarter ending June 30th, 2019, was $36 billion. It's a 1.9% decline year over year. This has kind of been a trend in almost all of auto manufacturing. Almost everybody's down, and I'm going to show you some more numbers. All right, so if any of this looks familiar, we've done all this in a video before. All right, now, GM 2010 was selling 223,000 units each, right? They reached a peak in 2016 of 319,000 units. And this is the GM North America, this is USA, right? And then 2017, it went down to 308. 2018, they're at 261. And at current, right, this is 198 here in January. They had a 221, they had a big spike, right? They're a little over. Now they're severely under year over year, month to month, right? And this is a down year, right? 252, 248, 252, 248, 253, 248. They're going to keep going down. All right. And that's kind of the situation. They're going to keep going downward as far as their trend's concerned. GM Canada is on the same level, right? They're, again, heading down as well. And this is kind of the situation with almost all automakers in the United States right now. So with that being said, I really don't see this as a good time for GM to be striking. But I fully understand it. I get it. I do, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's looking for a way to make more money right now. But I really don't see them doing extremely well. When, you know what I mean, GM's closing plants and this is how they're remaining profitable, you're going to end up driving them into bankruptcy. You know what I mean? It's just, the union should not be the one doing this. You know what I mean? Because they're not profitable at the moment. They're really not. And they're like, oh, we'll reopen the Lordstown plant. Like, God, it's not like, yo, the Lordstown plant needed to be closed because, like, it just wasn't making vehicles that they needed. Man, listen, like, I get it. I do, like, I get it. I stand with my union brethren. I understand, man, like, yo, people are hurting. But, man, listen, this is really not a good time.